Everybody, this is Robbie Gabriel. I'm here to show you my website that I made for this class. It's called New Age Cultivation, and essentially what it is, it's an informative website based on the Wuxia slash Exania style novels, which are pretty popular in China but are starting to make their way into mainstream culture in the US. Basically what it is, it's just a information website that talks about the various practices that go into these styles of novels and how real life people tend to use some of these practices to train in a spiritual and sometimes a very physical way. And basically what it is it's just kind of some of the information that I've pieced together over the years of just kind of researching this topic and just kind of being a general fan. Up top here we have my navigation bar, which I made using a bootstrap code that I got online. And if you click on here, it'll take you to the home page. Doesn't matter what page you're on. Um, it'll bring you back to this page right here, which basically just kind of gives you a quick overview of the website and what the various subgroups will go into. So if we click up top here, we'll get to our first page, which is key sources. And on this page, I just kind of go into about basically the different resources that the people that practice this stuff will use to kind of amplify their practice. And here we kind of have these three subgroups here: gemstones, nature, and Chinese herbs. And I made each of these into their own web page, but here it just kind of gives you a general overview of what they are and which ones you might be interested in looking at. So if we go to gemstones, well, you'll notice that there's a more categories, but these will kind of go into the more specific properties that they have and how they can help amplify their practice. So if you go in here, like it'll up here we talk about basically what I put on the other page, but just kind of going over this again. This kind of talks more about how people use the gemstones for their energy and all that kind of stuff. And then down here, I divide it more into like the different elements that gemstones supposedly possess. And if you'll notice here, the background stays fixed despite how you move the bar up and down. That took me a little while to accomplish. I ended up just Googling the code online and kind of sticking it in there. It took me a little while because it kept conflicting with my style sheet, but in the end, I was able to make it work. And if we go to this page, it's pretty much the same thing as the gemstones page. It's just a subgroup of nature. Again, we'll have a quick overview up top, and then we'll go down into more detail of how each energy is supposed to affect you in your practice. And then if we go here to this training section, this gets more into what the essentially what the practices are and who uses them. Like here we clicked on a page I call the basics. And this kind of spells out what this whole cultivation concept is. And cultivation is really just kind of a term I've taken to use to combine a number of different practices that all essentially come from the same root, but there's no real name to kind of group these things together. So I just kind of came up with it because it's what the Wuxia slash Exanian novels call it. So and those tend to be like a more extreme like fantasy version of all this stuff. But this is on this website you only find the actual practices of real life people use. For example, Nidan is a practice used by the Taoists. And it's essentially a practice where through meditation they seek to master their inner energy or, inner peace, whatever you want to call it. And then after at the next one, I call it key circulation slash qigong. And qigong's more of a physical practice. It's more of like tai chi type aspect that deals with circulating your inner energy and all that kind of stuff. It's a form of martial art that some people use. And then physical training, obviously, that's pretty self-explanatory. It's just, your regular workout. And basically, I just talk about how you need to work out in order to master this practice. Then if we look at these subgroups, we'll go into more of them, like Nidan, we'll talk about it here. And this talks about the various stages in the practice, like the energies, the three different types of energies that supposedly exist in your body and how to fuse them together to create different kinds of energies, which is a more complicated process, but I'd attempt to try to go in here to explain it to the readers so they can have a better idea of the concept. Then if we go to the Qigong key circulation one, this one has a picture of the various energy channels that are supposed to exist in the body. And I talk about how you can use this in your everyday life to, just kind of increase your general energy and just overall feel better. Then last, I talk about aura training. This is a little bit more out there as far as it goes, but supposedly some people believe that people have ki and auras, and I don't know if you necessarily believe in this kind of stuff, but I just kind of go into what people have talked about it through. I've talked about how it affects people and how to use it. It's kind of a basic understanding of it, but in general, there's no scientific evidence to back this one up, but I thought I'd add it onto here because it's relatively important to the concept. But other than that, this website is mainly just designed to just give a background and into what real people use into this kind of like fantasy concept. And that's about it.